The laugh came first. Low, deliberate. Well, I suppose we allow guests to sit wherever they like these days. 43 people at the Whitfield table. No one moved. Vivienne set her clutch down, pulled out her own chair, sat. Across from her, Margaret Whitfield. Pearls, smile sharp as glass. Beside her, Thomas, her husband. He had been holding her hand when they walked in. Now he was studying his water glass. He let go before she even sat down. Small movement. Loud message. In this room, she wasn't Vivienne Cole. She was Thomas Whitfield's wife. And that, apparently, required permission. Silence. That was the first weapon she ever learned to use. Because tonight wasn't just a family dinner. It was a test. And she had walked in already holding something this family could not afford to lose. They just didn't know it yet. Dinner began. By 8:15, the pattern was clear. Every question went to Thomas. Every introduction was to Thomas. Vivienne sat beside him like an accessory someone forgot to remove. So Tom, his cousin Brent, said, already on his third drink, would you meet her? Thomas opened his mouth. Vivienne answered first. Dubai. Infrastructure conference. I was presenting. Presenting what? Brent said. The way he said it made clear he didn't expect the answer to be interesting. A framework for sovereign investment strategy, 14 nations. She took a sip of water. It went well. A pause. Brent blinked. Then laughed. Smart lady, Tom. She is, Thomas said. And that was all. Across the table Margaret watched. Vivienne, she said lightly. What a lovely name. Is that a cultural? The question landed in the air between them like something dropped from a height. It's French. My grandmother's name. MMMM. Thomas told us so little about you. We never had the chance to understand your background. The pause before background. 3/4 of a second. Long enough for everyone at the table to hear exactly what she meant. What would you like to know? Vivienne said. Oh, everything. That's what family dinners are for. Thomas said nothing. By 8:40 she had been asked if she'd gone to college, if she had people back home, and whether she found the estate overwhelming. Each question wrapped in silk. Each one meant to measure her. No, Vivienne said. I've worked in larger spaces. Thomas ate his salmon. Said nothing in her defense. He had promised her in the car they'll be fine. It's not personal. But when his mother pulled the leash, he stayed quiet. At 9, the plates cleared. And the conversation shifted to business. The Whitfield Group was in the middle of a corporate restructure. That was the real reason for the dinner, not family. The West Africa port project. Brent said, 6 months stalled. We're out of runway. The consortium hasn't opened the door. The family attorney added, without regional approval, the deal dies. How long do we have? Margaret, 6 days. Silence. Vivienne set down her glass. The environmental covenant is outdated, she said calmly. And your ESG documentation is 18 months behind the new continental framework. That's why the consortium isn't engaging. The table froze. Margaret didn't look at Vivienne. She looked at Thomas. Does your wife often speak on company matters? Thomas shifted. She's not formally involved, Mother. Vivienne, we can We can what? Vivienne asked quietly. The room held its breath. We can discuss it later. She studied him, then nodded once. All right, Thomas. And the table moved on, as if she hadn't just told them how to save $380 million. What no one at that table knew. Vivienne wasn't just in finance. She was the managing director of Cole Capital Partners, a private infrastructure investment firm she had built from a single $100,000 loan she'd taken out at 28 and turned over 15 years into a $1.4 billion portfolio. 1.4 billion under management. And 6 weeks ago, Cole Capital secured preferred partner status with the exact West African consortium the Whitfield needed. Without that partnership, the port deal could not close. Not wouldn't, could not. She had the letter of intent in her clutch. Dated that morning. She waited. Dessert came. Music played softly in the next room. Thomas approached her carefully. You okay? Yes. She didn't mean. She meant every word, Vivienne said. You didn't defend me. I was going to. When? He had no answer. Across the room, Brent was talking to two men in ARC suits. Board members, she recognized them from the annual report she'd read on the drive up and glancing at her. Not discreetly, she watched him lean in. Say something. One of the men frowned, looked over. Then Margaret was beside her, appearing, as she always seemed to appear, without having walked anywhere. Vivienne. She said the name like a decision. Might I show you something? The East Gallery. There are portraits, family history. I think you'd find it educational. Thomas shifted beside her. Of course, Vivienne said. The gallery was lined with oil portraits. Generations of Whitfields. Not one face like hers. Margaret stopped walking. I'll be direct, she said. This marriage was a mistake. Not yours, Thomas's. He has certain enthusiasms. They don't always serve the family. We would prefer to reach a resolution quietly, before there's any legal complexity. She clasped her hands in front of her. There are resources available. It could be handled with discretion. I imagine a woman in your position would appreciate discretion. A woman in your position. Vivienne looked at her. What position do you think I'm in? An uncomfortable one. Vivienne smiled slightly. Thank you for the tour, Vivienne said. I think we should rejoin the table. Margaret blinked. Just slightly. She had expected something else. They returned to the table. 10:15. The attorney cleared his throat. The consortium finalized its preferred partner list. And Brent demanded. We are not on it. Silence. Without a bridge partner, he continued, the port project is dead. Brent looked up, and for the first time all evening, he looked directly at Vivienne. Not dismissively. Not with the smirking curiosity of a man who expects nothing. With a different kind of attention entirely. Cole Capital Partners, he said slowly. They're on the preferred list. The name landed in the room like a stone dropped into still water. Holt nodded. Your wife's firm. The Bourbonese was completely gone from Brent's voice. Thomas, did you know this? Thomas turned to her. You knew? Yes. Then Brent said how long? 8 months, Vivienne said. I negotiated the consortium relationship myself. For months, 3 countries. Cole Capital finalized preferred partner status 6 weeks ago. You let us sit here. I told you exactly what was wrong with the deal. She said evenly. Your mother asked if I was allowed to speak. And you agreed that I wasn't. No one moved. Mrs. Whitfield. Brent used her name carefully. Like a man diffusing something. Is Cole Capital still in a position to bridge the partnership? Is there still time? Vivienne opened her clutch. Placed the folded letter on the table. 72 hours, she said. If governance and DSG are corrected. Margaret stared at her. You came here tonight, Margaret said slowly. With that already in your bag. Yes. Knowing what we needed. Yes. And you said nothing. Margaret's voice had gone very careful. Very controlled. You sat at my table and you said nothing. I said quite a lot, Vivienne said. Before you had Thomas remind me that I wasn't formally involved. She looked at Margaret without blinking. I wanted to see what kind of room I was in. Now I know. She folded the letter of intent and put it back in her clutch. The clasp sounded louder than it should have. "The deal dies without you," the attorney said quietly. "I know." She stood. "Vivienne," Thomas said, voice cracking, "wait." She looked at him. And what she felt in that moment was not rage. It was something colder and more final. The feeling of watching a door close that you had been hoping, against all evidence, might stay open. "I waited in the hallway," she said softly. "When you let go of my hand." She picked up her clutch and walked out. No one stopped her. He found her in the coat room. Not because she was hiding, because she was on the phone. Her voice low and precise, instructing her CFO to place the consortium extension letter on hold until further notice. She ended the call when Thomas walked in. He looked like a man who had aged 10 years in 15 minutes. "I need you to come back in there," he said. "No. Vivienne, the deal is not my problem." She said it without heat. That was the thing about her voice. It was always quieter when she meant something most. "The deal is your family's problem. It was your family's problem before I walked in tonight, and it will be your family's problem after. You could save it. You know you could save it." Yes, she met his eyes. "I could." The silence stretched between them. "Then why?" "Because your mother offered me money tonight to disappear." She watched his face, in the gallery. Quietly. "She looked me in the eye and offered me a settlement to leave her son and go away without making a fuss." Vivienne tilted her head slightly. "Did you know she was going to do that?" Thomas opened his mouth and closed it. "Thomas, I didn't think she'd actually." "But you knew it was possible. It wasn't a question." He didn't deny it. That was enough. "I loved you," she said, past tense. Clean. Final. "I loved who I thought you were when it was just the two of us. I should have paid more attention to who you were when it wasn't. Vivienne, please her. But I will not beg for a seat at a table I could buy." She put on her coat. "Don't follow me." He didn't. Outside, the air was sharp, and she felt not relief exactly. Something more like the specific stillness that comes when you stop waiting for someone to be who you needed them to be. Her phone buzzed. A message from her CFO. Consortium called. They extended the window another 10 days. Said it was a professional courtesy to you personally. She read it twice. She didn't go back inside to tell them. The Whitfield port deal collapsed 11 days later. Not because Vivienne refused to help. She simply declined to act. She didn't sabotage anything. She didn't make calls. She returned to her office on Monday morning and worked on the 12 other things on her desk. And she let the Whitfield Group's problem remain the Whitfield Group's problem. Brent resigned from the board 4 months later. He cited personal reasons. The board accepted his resignation with a brief statement. Margaret Whitfield gave an interview to a lifestyle magazine that spring. The interviewer asked about her son's marriage. Margaret said, carefully, that the family supported Thomas in all his personal decisions. The magazine ran the quote next to a photograph of Vivienne, taken at a consortium signing ceremony in Lagos. She was at the head of the table. 14 nations. Cole Capital's name on the plaque behind her. The magazine had not planned to run the two images side by side. The layout editor made the choice because it looked good on the page. It looked very good on the page. Thomas filed for the legal separation in April. He called Vivienne the night before the papers were sent. She answered. He said he was sorry. He said he'd been sorry since the coat room. He said he didn't know how to be both his family's son and her husband, and he'd made the wrong choice when it counted, and he knew it. She listened to all of it. "I made the wrong choice." "I know," she replied. "Is there anything?" "No," she said. "Not unkindly. The way you close a book you've already finished. Take care of yourself, Thomas." She hung up. She sat for a while in the quiet of her apartment, the one she'd kept in her name. Always, because she had learned it a long time ago to keep the things that mattered in her own name, and she thought about a dining room in Westchester. 43 people. A laugh that was meant to diminish. She thought about the folder she'd carried in that night. The letter of intent folded in her clutch, waiting. She had walked in already holding everything they needed, and they had spent the entire evening trying to make her feel like she was lucky to have a seat. She poured herself a glass of wine. She did not toast anything. She did not narrate the moment to herself. She was not that kind of woman. She just sat in the quiet of what she had built, and she let it be enough. Because it was. It always had been. She didn't destroy them. She just stopped saving them. And sometimes, that's the most powerful thing a woman can do. Subscribe to Golden Heart Stories. Share this with a woman who knows her worth to the decimal. We'll see you in the next one.